Auburn versus Cal is just 2 days away, and so that means it is time for us to offer up a preview and, of course, some predictions here on our live stream where we offer our opinions, but of course, we want to hear yours too. Let's get into everything right now. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. On tap for you this evening, as it's been the case that we've done every single year, it seems like that we've been doing a YouTube channel. We are going to preview and predict the game at hand during football season. Auburn Tigers versus the Cal Golden Bears. For the very first time ever, we're going to walk through everything. We're going to walk through predicting rushing yards, passing yards allowed. We're going to do the whole thing here. So I know most of you that are jumping into the stream live, they're just starting to watch this on the replay, are going to want to throw out your predictions at the very beginning. My advice, hold on, let's talk through it a little bit, and then maybe it'll inform your decision and your prediction just a little bit more. And of course, it's always great discussion tonight. A couple things that you can do for us is to go ahead and get the show started off on a great note is to smash the like button, whether you're here on YouTube, of home base of YouTube, whether you're watching somewhere else like Facebook. We appreciate you being here and hanging out with us. Do that for us. It's a huge help. The share button as well on Facebook. The biggest thing you can do is let us know you're here. Post that you're here and where you're watching from. Some of you are already doing it. You know the drill. City, state, international with the War Eagle. If we have any Cal Golden Bears fans checking in on the live stream, can't help you if you're on the replay, but welcome if you're on the replay. We'd love to hear from you tonight. I will open up the call lines exclusively for Cal fans tonight. I doubt that we'll get any of them, but I would love to hear from some of you all on the stream tonight if you somehow make it into the live portion of the show. A lot of familiar faces checking in. We got Stan, we got Linda. Good to see you, Miss Linda. Brian in Minnesota, which you're going to be in Cal very shortly, aren't you, sir? Kevin's here, Big Mac's here, Andrew, John. Thank you guys so much for all checking in early and often with us. Good to see a lot of familiar faces and maybe some I think I'd recognize everybody, maybe some new faces too tonight. So kind of like last week, we're going to follow the same general format. We might adjust it a little bit each week, seeing how you guys do and don't like things. But I frankly liked what we did last week. Talked a little bit about the game itself, facts behind the game, and then kind of dive into the nitty gritty of everything. What do we think about this area of how it's going to go down? What do we think about this other area? Offense, defense, special teams, it's all on the table. And then at the end, I'm going to give you my final prediction. I'll be honest with you. I actually haven't thought about this a whole lot other than I think it's going to be a very, very close game. So that's kind of my only operating principle for this. So you guys are going to help me. And of course, us going through this little formula, I guess, if you want to call it. It's not a formula, but through the different areas, it's going to inform me a little bit more about what my potential prediction might be at the end of all of this tonight. Flying out tomorrow, well, safe travels to you. And so many of our Auburn Tiger fans are out there. In talking about the facts of the game, let's talk about this portion. Apparently, I said it last night on our Wednesday night stream, the Cal fans are feeling rather fresh right now and feel rather is uppity the right word about how they feel about Auburn invading their territory. There's been a lot of discussion about a certain running back and opinions he's voiced about what our name supposedly means and it not living up to the hype. You know, the fun but overused phrase is locker room material or bulletin board material. They definitely have that. The motivation is there. Tyler is starting it even more now. Easy work. I hear you. I absolutely hear you. It absolutely could be easy work. I just don't think that it's going to be as easy as some people think, given just the sheer travel plans alone. But that's the first big thing that sticks out to me when we preview this matchup is the energy that has began to develop over this week with the Cal fans. And I kind of love that, to be honest with you, because when Auburn and Penn State matched up, they did it for the last 2 years, but the first year you could really feel that building as we got further into the week. And no offense to Cal, but y'all haven't been really relevant for a while. I mean, I'm not saying we've been every time I say that, the fan base is like, well, you guys have been terrible for the last 2 years. Of course, but historically, we're a little bit, more prominent. So what I'm talking about there is Penn State versus Cal. You could see that hype building. I just didn't see that hype building as much for this game, simply because of where the two programs are at and because it's just not something, they're so separated, right? So it's been interesting to see that animosity build up a little bit. Hope we shut Ott up. I hope so as well. We'll talk about him definitely in there. Cal upset Old Piss last week. Last year, excuse me. Upsetting Ole Miss is not that big a deal. It happens a lot. That's the thing with the Lane Kiffin coach team, which is maybe a reason to be thankful he didn't come here, is they will be hot, and then be cold, cold, cold. I would much rather have some consistency. Not consistently bad, but consistency. Neil being a little bit pessimistic here, and that's fine. I would rather, honestly, I would shade more, not as far as maybe Neil's gone. I don't know how bad you're feeling is, Neil, but I would actually shade more toward his side of caution and understanding, hey, there may be more to this than we actually think it's going to happen. And here's the reality of the situation. This will give us a good benchmark where Auburn actually is thus far this season. We won't truly know where they're at until we get into SEC play, until we get to the much better competition. But for now, we're going to at least know that we'll get a little bit more information about this team going forward. So talked about the animosity that's built a little bit, the significance of this matchup. Talk, Kyle. First time ever. How cool is that? Auburn versus Cal for the very first time ever. My friend Clint Richardson has posted an article. It actually is up on our site, but our site's kind of down right now, where he talked about this a long time ago, and that has since been updated. Teams that Auburn has still yet to play. It's quite an extensive list, and I think if I remember correctly, when we did our preview last year, we discussed UMass for the first time ever, and that was the 84th team that Auburn's played. So this would make it either the 85th or the 84th, whichever it is. So this is a pretty cool thing that this is actually happening. It's also unique that Auburn's going to go all the way out there to the West Coast and invade over there. We'll get a good idea of how energetic the Auburn family is by how well we travel over there. I haven't gotten a sense of how many Auburn fans are actually going to be at the game, although we're seeing a lot of stories on social media that seem to indicate that that's going to happen and that there's going to be a significant, whatever you define that is. I would say 80-20 would be significant, just given the distance alone. We don't know how big some of the pockets are of Auburn faithful. For instance, I live up in the Northwest Georgia region, and there's a big pocket of us up here just because there's a lot of engineering jobs and opportunities up here. You can think Silicon Valley would be a little bit of the similar vein there. Cameron says, I'm not sure about Cal, but after watching the film, North Texas defense was undersized. I thought it said underrated. It's a little small on my screen for some reason, and horrible. And here's the thing, too. We've got to remember Auburn versus UMass. That was also a little rinky-dink game, too. We will truly know at least an idea of who is more for real after this game. And frankly, you should probably, if Auburn ends up winning this game, and if they were to win it significantly, big if there, you should probably walk away feeling a lot better about this team, where they're currently at as a program. Not to say that Cal is a good or a bad team, but simply the travel. They are Power 5. They seem to have a pretty decent offense. We'll find out. Will the SEC defense stand strong? Got a little hangnail there. That is the question. This is all Auburn. Maybe so. What do you guys think? Do you think it's cool that we're going out to Cal? Anything that sticks out to you about just not necessarily the game part of it, but just the idea of the matchup, the very first time ever they'll come back to us next year? Keep in mind, folks, I did a short about it this week. This is the last time, as far as we know, that Auburn will play the Pac-12 as it currently exists, and maybe ever. And Auburn has had some pretty good success against the Pac-12, at least who's been in it when we've played them. I did a short about that this week, talked about how we've beaten Oregon twice. We've lost to USC 2 out of 3 times. We've beaten Arizona twice out of 3, I think is what it was. Beaten Oregon State, Colorado. So we've had some pretty good success against the Pac-12. So I'm kind of sad that it's officially ending. So it'll be funny to think about next year if this ACC Cal thing happens, that we play in the ACC next year. Go figure, right? That is just weird. But yeah, so just kind of some cool things to talk about around the game that I definitely wanted to mention and talk about. There was like one other thing that was on my mind about this game that I did want to mention. The weather. Not that that was the biggest thing there, but not that we had terrible weather this last game in Auburn. It was actually pretty decent given the time of year and what had been happening previously, but they're going to have some really nice weather out there from what I understand. I think the game time temperature, in Berkeley is 70 degrees. Probably will be a little bit cooler as the night goes on. So this will be a nice little, the boys should feel fresh when they come out there. Will they feel fresh in terms of adjusting to the time and all that? It'll be easy. It'll be not easy. It'll be a little bit more difficult. It's easier to adjust going west to east than east to west. I've never had jet lag going to California, so this shouldn't be an issue. Just keeping the kids busy and not letting them get complacent. That is the biggest challenge for a team like Auburn traveling that distance. I mean, this is about as far for a major game like this as you can travel other than going to Oregon and Washington. I mean, Cal's up there, in the Berkeley area. So it's going to take a minute. Brian says, I've been looking forward to this game since it was scheduled. I have a friend in Cal who is a Cal fan. We should have talked to him tonight, Brian. I should have hooked up with you and said, let's get him on the show. Looking forward to being in the stadium with him. Let's get him out to Auburn next year so we can compare and contrast. That'd be really cool. Corey, that's a great question. I don't know that it's been confirmed or denied that Nehemiah would be back. Those of you that don't know, Nehemiah came into week 1 with a little bit banged up. They were hoping he was going to play. I don't think he did, if I remember correctly. And coach did say that there's still a list of guys that weren't able to play. In fact, I'm going to check something real quick. I asked for a clarification from a friend, and I did not get a response. So I will take that as not a good sign. But that's not about Nehemiah. I'm not even talking about what it's about, but wanted to see if I got a response for that at all. Auburn should schedule a noon game for Cal in 2024. It'd be funny to see that happen. Watch them deal with a early September noon game, but then we also, as fans, have to deal with it. I would much rather it be a night game. Hey, look, even at night, it's going to be humid. So they're going to have to deal with it. They're going to go from no humidity to humidity. It's going to affect them. All right. Big first-time matchup, Pac-12, the last of it, and SEC matchup will set the tone. SEC has struggled a little bit in these non-conference games to start off the season. Hopefully Auburn will not fall victim to that. Let's hope. Last little bit here before we actually get into talking about the game and predictions here. The game will kick off at 10:30 Eastern time. Games can depend how long they go, 3 hours typically at least. And then even with the new clock system, still pretty long. I would say plan for 3 hours and 30 minutes. That means that we're getting done on the East Coast. Somebody do that math real quick. 1:30 at minimum. So I hope everybody's ready to stay up. I hope that you'll stay up. As a quick plug, we will be doing our post-game live stream right after that. I know when I'm on campus, it has to happen a little bit later. Doesn't when I'm in studio, which I plan to be as of this moment. It will be right as soon as the game ends. So be ready for that, and we'll talk about it a little bit. 10:30 kickoff going to be rough. At least for who is this? For most, going going to work Saturday early. I didn't understand all of that, Big Mac, but I concur that the 10:30 kickoff is going to be rough. All right, so we're about 15 minutes in. Let's go ahead and start doing this. Thank you guys so much. And Linda is back. She's in the chat. She's hanging out with us, talking about she met Nehemiah's grandmother. I'm happy to see Miss Linda back. Brings me great happiness. I understand. You're speaking French in the chat. Well, right over here. Okay, let's jump into this and talk about this team. What I thought would be good to do, last time I went through the depth chart, we can do that, but I think we're going to get most of that from the actual last game they played and get an idea of who to expect from this team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So let me, I'm going to put it up here and then I'm going to adjust it a little bit. Put me in the corner, maybe actually put baby in the corner. Let's do that. There we go. I want to bring it up fully. All right. So we're going to look at ESPN's, excuse the advertisements, all that stuff, because I'm just sharing screen right now. We're going to look at ESPN's. There it goes. Make sure that's what's showing up on the screen there. It is. Their game last time, 58-21 versus the North Texas Mean Green. North Texas has had some history where they've been okay. I think they're at a point now where they're a little down. Beat them 58-21. They scored 14 in the first, 19. That's an interesting number. Do that math real quick. 4 field goals, and a touchdown. 15 in the third and 10 in the fourth. And, they allowed all of their points in the first half, much like Auburn did. Actually, I lied. They let another one in garbage time. But really the scoring for their opponent, like us, happened in the first part of the game. They at least looked a little bit more formidable. Andrew, thanks for hanging out with us and being here. Appreciate it. If you look at here on the stat sheet, you're going to see some names to pay attention to. First off, Sam Jackson V is apparently their starting quarterback who got injured in the first game. You can see there he's only 3 for 4 with 1 touchdown. So a touchdown and only 4 attempts before he got hurt. Ben Finley came in against a North Texas team and was very good. 2 for 89, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I think you can probably see there that an interception versus North Texas probably shows we wide the backup. No offense, Ben Finley, but Sam Jackson, if he's healthy, is their guy. And then if you look down further in the California rushing category, let me make sure you guys can actually see that. Yes, you can. I was making sure that was showing on the screen. Jaden Ott, 20 for 178 yards, 8.9 per carry, 2 touchdowns, a long of 66. They've also got a couple of other running backs there, and Ifans Stedrick. Is it Stedrick? Is that Stedrick? Is that how you say that? I don't know. And then obviously a lot of other people got into the run game too. Probably most of those are like we used after the fact the game was in hand. But Ott is where you look at the beginning to see where their big weapon is. He is the one that has been quoted calling Auburn maybe not living up to its name. It's a very bold statement. Don't know how you all feel about it. He is definitely given some bulletin board material. So when you look at the North Texas game, what do we see? We see a team that can score points. It's got a proficient offense against lesser opponents. Same thing could be said for Auburn here. But it doesn't take away. You still got to go out there and perform. And Jaden Ott, the running back, did that. As we saw in the first game versus UMass, Auburn gave up some explosive plays, given apparently, according to Coach Freeze, due to some misalignment things on defense that happened. If those are cleaned up this week, we will get a better sense of this team is actually a good run defense or not. It's hard to tell when you're just misaligning, right? I mean, speaks to, are you retaining the information in practice and all that kind of stuff? But it could get scary with an athlete like Jaden Ott, and maybe, just maybe, his His stats dictate why he feels so confident about some things. Let's look at this again one more time. I'll bring it back up for us to look at wide receivers. When I look at this, to be honest with you, I don't see anything that just sticks out to me, frankly. Do you guys? On the screen, you're going to see Jeremiah Hunter with 6 receptions, 64 yards. Monroe Young, 4 receptions for 63 yards. So spreading the ball out pretty well amongst those guys. Taj Davis also got 4 for only 36. And then you got a bunch of others. So they got the ball to a lot of different receivers. We got them to some, but not as many as them. So it looks like they like to spread the ball around at least against inferior opponents. But Jeremiah Hunter and Monroe Young are probably where you want to look. So names to remember: Jeremiah Hunter, Monroe Young, Jaden Ott, the running back, and then Sam Jackson, the quarterback, along with Ben Finley, if he does not start. That is who you want to keep in mind. What stuck out to all of you guys from what we just discussed there? Anything concern you? Anything stick out that you're like, hey, I didn't know that. I didn't know about that guy. I didn't know about that stat. Anything like that. You bring up a good point, John. Not that it really matters in the grand scheme of the game, but I noticed that on social media today that Jackson played with Thorne in high school. So cool little connection happening there. You're going to see a lot of these things, at least this year and maybe the following year, as the transfer portal has come more of a thing. So much interchanging means there's so much overlap everywhere. Like, I played with this guy, I played with this. More opportunities to see more people because you're with different teams every year. So fun little thing to add on there. I hope it doesn't become the did you know Jarrett Stidham's from Texas thing, or did you know that Bo Nix is getting married thing, or whatever they use. Yeah. And Ott only played 1/2 apparently. I can't confirm that, Devin, but Linda, but I will take you at your word on that. It wouldn't shock me, right? The goal in a game like they had versus North Texas is to get your main guys out there as quickly as possible, especially if they have a game like that. Did his job, get him out of there, keep him from getting hurt. Jackson played wide receiver. Well, he's not the first converted quarterback from another position to have success, so maybe we'll get a look at him right now. Yes, that's the one concern that I have. I'd like to have seen Jackson a little bit more in that first game. So while maybe I would never wish ill will on someone, while you're kind of like, well, I'm glad he's not bad hurt, but maybe he's a little banged up. That's in our favor. On the same hand, you don't get a good look at him too. So there's always that. I heard Bo's dad played for Auburn. That was another one too. Gardendale, William says, loves Auburn. Sounds like a place that loves Auburn in Alabama. So that is the last game for that team. North Texas, the big win for them, if you want to call it that. And now they are ready to welcome the Auburn Tigers. So let's walk through it right here. We're going to move into our prediction phase, and hold your horses. We're going to let you guys give your score predictions at the end of the stream. If you have to leave early, that's fine. We just may not be able to come back to it if we get enough of these. But what we're going to do is I've got offense, defense, special teams laid out. We'll go through most of these. I want to predict what's going to happen in each of those areas. And remember, when we're talking about these things, because I want to hear y'all's perspectives, not just what I think about it, but what do you think is going to happen? For instance, let's go ahead and answer this question, and I'll finish my intro of it. How many points do you think our offense is capable of scoring in this game? I know that's getting into the area of giving your score prediction, but just tell me, what do you think this offense, off of what you saw of Auburn and what you saw or know about Cal, is capable of scoring at Cal? Keep in mind the line's 55, something like that, for the combined score. So keep that in mind in predictions that you're giving right now. Thorns is traveling. That's funny. How many points do you think that Auburn is capable of scoring in this game? History would tell you that Pac-12 defenses aren't that great. They gave up 21 to a North Texas team. Most were in the first half, so there was a good chance their starters were in for quite a significant time there. So to me, when I walk through that information, I think Auburn's got a really good chance to score a lot of points here. How much is the question? Byron says 38. It's not bad. 38. If you don't know an exact number, give me a ballpark, like 30 to 40, 20 to 30, 10 to 15. You know, if you think truly that we're going to get stymied a little bit by this team, you see what happens. We'll see what happens, but let me know about that. Here's the interesting thing about this too, is that this is the opposite of the team that we played this week. Well, in many ways, but that was more of a defensive focused team. Their head coach was more defensive focused. Will Cox, I believe, their head coach is a more offensive guy, I think. Well, clearly that dictates that it would be 39. John said, you know what? I'll do one more. I will take one more. At least 42. We're going higher. Anybody think we're going to score higher than that? Anybody else? Anybody think we're going to go lower? Neil, if you're watching, you said you don't feel good about it. Do you think we're going to score lower? 34, 38? Okay. So right now we're looking at a mid to upper 30s type of collective. Jackson, welcome. Thank you for being here. Kind of a collective score here thus far. I think that's fair. Okay. So let's leave it there. You guys can still Stan says 54 today. Is that what you're feeling? Like today is what you're feeling? 54. You can keep answering that one, but let's answer the next question. How many passing yards and touchdowns? So you can answer that however you'd like. Give passing first, touchdown second. Do you think Auburn will score? You see what we're doing here? We're kind of going from the beginning. How many points do you think we're going to score? How many, or how do you think that breaks down? How many passing yards and how many passing touchdowns do you think we have? We'll do rushing in a second, but how many passing and touchdowns? Let's think back to the last game versus UMass. Passing game wasn't featured a lot. So it is very easy to think that maybe we're going to utilize that a little bit more in this game. In fact, let me see if I can go back real quick and look at the last game. Now, you know what we'll do? Let me go over here and look at this one. I want to make sure I get this right here. Peyton Thorne, 2 for 17, 141 yards, 1 touchdown. Nothing to write home about, but nothing to be ashamed about either. We know that he is a very proficient passer, a good leader. So it stands to reason that we're going to be able to score at least a passing touchdown or 2. I would think we would need to be successful, or some other combination. We got 3 passing touchdowns as a prediction. Their secondary stinks, he says. I wanted to look back at the North Texas game. The quarterback from North Texas threw 3 touchdowns, all 3 of them, also 2 interceptions. So their secondary may stink, but they got 2 interceptions off of him. That you can take that for whatever it's worth. Linda says 3 passing touchdowns, 178. That's a very efficient night. Usually if you see like 3 passing touchdowns, you think they're more in the 200 range, but if they're very selective and very efficient, that I could see that working. 185 and 2 passing touchdowns. So let me ask you this question on top of this. Does Robbie pass for a touchdown in this game? I know the other question, rushing, we're getting there. I'm going to say no, but I do think that Peyton will throw for at least 1. I'm struggling to say that he's going to throw for a second, and I don't know why. I can't get there. And I don't think it has anything to do with Cal. I don't think it has anything to do with I think it's the unknown for me, right? We don't know what this passing game is truly going to look like. We've heard some things like the wide receivers have been a little lackadaisical at times and not been as focused at times in practice. So that's a little bit, concerning. 4 and 225. That'd be a great here's the thing. I think if Peyton Thorne passes for 3 touchdowns, we've won the game. Easily. When I say easily, like more than a possession score. I don't think Robbie will throw for a touchdown, but he definitely will do the other probably. So let's move on to that. Let's answer the question. This is probably the biggest factor in this game, folks. How many rushing yards and touchdowns will Auburn score? So we talked a lot about what your points were. We've talked a little bit about what your passing outlook is. What might be in your minds the breakdown of all of that with rushing yards and rushing touchdowns? I think for Auburn to win this game and not have it be super scary, they have got to find a way to establish the run game and control that crowd. We felt the energy picking up all week. You can tell the Cal fans are getting more into this. They see a vulnerable Auburn program, seeing as where it's currently at least perception wise. If there's a time to beat Auburn, I said this about UMass last week. There's a time to beat Auburn, to hold that over them, to say that you beat a big program like Auburn. Now is the time to get that crowd out of this. You've got to establish a running game. So what is your breakdown in your mind? It's a good question. Will Thorne run for a touchdown? It would be an interesting juxtaposition to what is expected. Robbie to run the ball and then Peyton run it in. As we saw, I think he ran it he did less running with the ball, but evading tacklers the few times that he had to do it. 3 rushing touchdowns for 220 yards total. Like that. That's a pretty solid day at the office. What did we have last week? 270, I think, is what we had. And if you look at ESPN, it'll show you the top stat getters in those situations. Sean Jackson's our leader. He will not be the leader after this week, probably, but I'm happy to see him there for now. Linda says 1 return for a touchdown. Oh, well, that doesn't count in that category. So save that for a second, but 3 rushing, and that puts me at 49 points. Ooh, getting up there. Byron says 325 and 3. I feel like Auburn is going to establish itself eventually with the run game. And I think if we break the 300 mark, we win this game. But I think it's going to be close. So I'm going to say we don't quite get there. I think we'll get into the 270 range-ish again. I think that's where we had last game, but with less people being utilized. So probably here, this was one of the questions. So this is the next question I have for you all. Who's going to be Auburn's top rusher in this game? So let me know just general thoughts about that. Like, who in your mind scores a rushing touchdown, or who's the biggest contributor rushing wise? Is it Robbie? Is it Damari? Brian Battie? Is it Sean Jackson? Let me go ahead and talk about this aspect of it. I have asked for confirmation from a few people about Jarquez, if he's on the bus. I have heard conflicting rumors that he was on the travel roster this week, that he was going to be there. I've heard not so sure. So unless somebody in the chat has heard something definitively, which we always got to kind of take with a grain of salt. Right now, I'm planning for him not to be there. You're asking the big questions, right? Y'all are asking the big. Cobb's a good addition in that as well with what he did last week. But I feel like for the most part, you're going to see Brian Battie and Damari getting the bulk of the work for this one. Corey says the only thing I can see Cal keeping up with is on speed. I think we'll get burned on a couple of plays. I think, yeah, we'll get burned on a couple of plays. Maybe so. Maybe. So I'm assuming that Jarquez is not going to be there, and even if he's there, will not play a significant amount. I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I'm assuming. So that's the question there. Something to ponder about when you're guessing about these things. Here's the next one, and we're going to move on to defense. We got to get moving here, actually. Who is your top receiver in this game? I think if you ask this question, a lot of people going into last week said Javaris Johnson. A lot of people said Shane Hooks. A lot of people said, somebody else. There was very few people that said Jay Fair. I said this week on social media that Jarrett Stidham and Ryan Davis, that connection reminded me for some odd reason when I saw Peyton Thorne and Jay Fair. If you remember, Ryan Davis wasn't the biggest receiver. He was a very dynamic receiver, but they hold the record for most receptions, quarterback wide receiver duo now at Auburn. So keep that in mind. Who is your best receiver coming out of this game? I think the easy answer is what Linda says, Jay Fair. It doesn't make it wrong. But if I'm Cal, I noticed that too. And we're going to put some extra pressure on him. But what does that do? Open up a lot of opportunities for some of these other guys, especially bigger targets. I think Nick Mardner, the big 6'6" guy, is, well, I don't know this for a fact, but I would assume he's still a little bit banged up, part of that list of players there. I'm wondering, Tyler says Shane Hooks, that could be a good option. This is a bit of a cheat because I did ask who's the best receiving wise. I'm wondering if what everybody's been hoping for is about to take shape. Tight ends. Rivaldo Fairweather could be the difference maker in this game. Hey, you Tiger blogging. There you go. Clell. Watch for Rivaldo Fairweather's coming out party. Absolutely. You're probably going to see multiple people being utilized. But if I'm Cal, I'm making sure Jay Fair and his athleticism doesn't break us. I make Auburn get the ball to its tight ends, its bigger wide receivers. That's what I'm doing. So that's a bit of the offense. Hold your points for a second. Let's move on to defense. My voice is getting a little dry tonight. And talk about it a little bit more. All right. So on defense, how many points, not your score prediction, but how many points do you think that Cal is capable of scoring against Auburn? When you're answering this question, remember, think about what Auburn allowed against UMass, and what Cal allowed or put up, I guess, I'm getting those backwards, against North Texas. Two very different teams, two very similar, maybe levels of play, two different conferences, two different styles of running the scheme. How many points do you think that Cal's going to put up on Auburn? Devin, how did our volleyball team do? Let me know. That's one bad thing about doing live streams all the time. Sometimes I'm doing them during the other games. 17, 27, 17. Let's not worried about the gap coverage. Cal has potential to put up 28. Devin says 21 to 28. So far from what you guys have posted, what I'm seeing is this. I'm seeing a range from, Linda says 10. Linda's calling for a blowout. She was in the 40s for us, and she's thinking blowout. Our range outside, Linda's our outlier, and I'm not saying it's wrong, Linda, but you're our outlier in this exercise, is about mid-20s, it seems like, to, upper. So let's say like range of maybe 24 into 28 territory. So let's call it 4 touchdowns. Most people that was here in the chat when we were discussing that part of the game said Auburn would score beyond that. So you can understand why Auburn fans are a little bit confident about this game. I would agree with you guys. I think that Cal's going to be able to put up points. The biggest question is whose defense is going to hold. All right, next part of the defense. Let's break it down even further. How many passing yards does Auburn give up, included in that touchdowns? How many passing yards will Auburn give up to Cal? How many passing touchdowns? What part of the game? Let me remind you when you're answering this question. Let's go back. I'll share my screen for a second again. Let's see if I've got the right screen put up here. Yes, I do. Let me just scroll down to, whoops, wrong one. Down here. If you look at those receivers, oh, I think I did it backwards, actually. Did I do receivers first time? Let's just do receivers. Yeah, how many passing touchdowns, how many passing yards? Not anybody really sticks out. Same could kind of be said for Auburn on the flip side, but there's a guy with 64, 63. He had 6. It looks like Jeremiah Hunter and Monroe Young are the guys that you want to pay attention to on that. So what do you guys think? Let's switch back over here to this one. Whoops. There we go. Corey says, I think Cal will keep up with us until the 4th. I agree. Stan, you said it's buffering. You guys also let me know if there's any connection issues. Sometimes we did have some Wi-Fi work done in the area this week and last week, so that could be affecting a little bit. If there's anything like that popping up, let me know. 180 and 1 touchdown, 1 passing touchdown, 60 yards, no touchdowns. Wow. The one thing I will say for those of you that are predicting very low, which is most of y'all, 130 and 2, I would say you're not the most wrong you could be here. We know how good Auburn's DBs are. It's the strongest point. Even without Nehemiah Pritchett, you have got DJ James, you've got Keontae Scott, you have got Donovan Kaufman, Zion Puckett. There's many more. So many young, great athletes there as well. I'm not so much worried about the passing game, but let's get to the big question and probably the crux of the issue here for Auburn in this game. How many rushing yards and touchdowns are allowed by Auburn for Cal? Answer me that question. How many rushing yards and how many rushing touchdowns does Cal get on Auburn? If we're all honest here, I hope you're being honest. You need to be worried about this area. Not just because Auburn seemed to give up some explosive plays in this area against UMass, but because you're going up against a player like Jaden Ott. Did he run his mouth this week? Sure. And it's great bulletin board material, but he did back it up last week. Will he back it up this week? Remains to be seen. Here's what I'm planning on seeing. Jaden Ott, whoever, is going to put some rushing yards on the board. I've got to believe that if misalignment was the issues that allowed that against UMass, it's going to still somewhat be there, maybe better this game after being addressed. So for me, I'm expecting the bulk of their offense to come on the back of their running back or running backs, maybe even a quarterback. I think they're going to break easily 200 rushing yards on us. I don't like it, but I think it's pretty likely. Let's see. Talar. I feel like that is, I don't know who this is, but I feel like that's someone messing with their name. I'm probably wrong, but who made it another account. 150, 2 touchdowns, 189, 2 touchdowns, 225, 2 touchdowns. 275 and 2. So it looks like everybody's expecting about 2 rushing touchdowns. I agree with you on that. I do agree that over 200, probably in the 250 range. I think if Auburn allows more than 250 yards rushing, we're in trouble. That means they established a running game. That means that they've got control of the pace of play at home, energized. We're in trouble. Brian says if we lose, it's because of our run D. We will find out shortly, but I understand why people have some trepidation here. All right. Final questions on defense. This one's about Auburn's defense specifically. A player, give me who you think Auburn's top tackler is going to be in this game. Who is Auburn's top tackler? Last week it was, help me, people, help me. Keontae Scott. Was it Keontae Scott? No. Eugene Asante. This might be a week where you think that might be the case too. Remember, huge loss this week with Austin Keys being out indefinitely, basically. That word wasn't used, but that's what it was implied. At linebacker, huge loss. But Eugene kind of came on in that game and looked really strong. Maybe he's the guy that is going to be the best tackler for Auburn. You got to think with them being a run team mainly, it seems that it's going to give really good opportunities for the linebackers, maybe some of our ends, our edge rushers to be guys that make a lot of plays and tackles. So I'm going to go out here on a little bit of a limb, and this is a bold prediction. I think Keldrick Faulk's going to be the leading tackler. Just a feeling, just a thought. I think we're going to need a lot of fresh bodies. I think you're going to see a lot of guys getting rotated in there because they're going to be running on us a lot and people are going to need breathers. I think Keldrick is going to find himself in a situation with his young athleticism and get on a hot streak and stay in there. I think it's Keldrick Faulk this game. Sante again, maybe so, maybe so. And part of my reason for thinking it may be Keldrick or another edge or end is because I think we're going to really get after this quarterback. You like how I think, Carl? That's a good reference right there. Kaufman. Here's my one problem with that prediction, Linda. Not that it's a wrong one to have. If you're right, that means that we're getting a lot of opportunities for them to break into the secondary on a run game, probably, and they're having to clean that up. I'm hoping a DB is not the leading tackler this week. I hope it's a linebacker. I hope it's an end. I hope it's an edge rusher, one of those guys. C. Hall agrees with me about Falk and the linebackers. I think the biggest thing that we can do is try to maintain and hold their run game from being the thing that steadies them and take advantage of when that quarterback goes back to pass, whether it's the regular starter or the backup. Take advantage of that and make them hurt. So, Falk's a good pick. He's a better athlete than anyone on Cal's roster. Maybe so. Maybe so. No, and let's see, I don't think that's a bad pick, Linda. I just think that is an indicator. A lot of the times your DBs are your best tacklers, and sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing. It depends on what they're playing. Now, Donovan, if I'm correct, is playing more of the star. Is it him or Keon? Yeah, the star position, which they get utilized a lot coming up, a little bit cheating up, kind of it's not the position that we use it, the way we use the positions, not so much of a hybrid linebacker DB, but it could be. So it's not wrong, but that does concern me if you're right. All right. We are almost done and we're going to do our score predictions here, but final thing, let's do special teams really quick. You guys give it to me in bulk here, and then we'll do score predictions at the end here, and then we'll just leave room for open discussion for the final minutes that we have together. So we still got about 12 minutes though. Special teams. What I want to know, how many punts, how many field goals attempted and made, and any punt or kick returns. However you want to answer that, talk about it, give it to me in a few different comments if you want to break it down a little bit further. What I want to know from you is what this special teams look like. And you can even talk about defensive special teams. But because I was more so asking the offensive side of it and the punting side of it. But what do you guys think about the special teams? Someone said it really early on in the chat, and I forget who it was. I'm not going to scroll back up to find it. That the special teams is really good right now, and that could be the difference. I concur. Keys to this game is controlling. When I say controlling, just keeping it in check their running game, making sure we get our passing game a little bit more proficient, and having a good special teams game. I think that's going to be huge. Hope we run a kickoff back. Be nice, wouldn't it? If Auburn gets a punt return or a kick return in this game, they're going to win. They're going to win. With the athletes that we have, that is not a bad prediction. Special teams looked as good as they have ever. Definitely could be a difference maker. Well, that's why it's the special teams, right? It's the special stuff, special sauce. Kaufman, because he seems to play a nickel rush. Oh, okay, I got you about the defense. There you go. So here's what I think I forgot to ask about interceptions and things like that, but that's fine. We're kind of running low on time here. I think that I'll answer it in the sequence that I asked it. Punts. I think we're going to have Oscar Chapman punt at least 4 times. I think we're going to have thinking. Give me a second. I think we're going to have possibly 2 field goals from Alex McPherson. I want to say that we're going to have a punt or a kick return. If we do, we win. I just don't know that it's going to happen in this particular game. And I think defensively, special teams wise, we're going to have a pretty solid game too with the athletes that we have. So all that being said, I said 2 field goals, 4 punts attempted. That's kind of my breakdown of special teams prediction wise. Field position's a big one too. 2 field goals, 4 punts, no special teams tutties, solid night returns. 1 field goal, return, touchdown, or a kickoff, forced fumble also. I didn't ask about fumbles and interceptions during defense, so I apologize for that. But yeah. Chapman's in his 50th year. Has done nothing but positive. That's fair. He's pretty solid for us, but I don't want to have to use him though. I think we will in this game. All right. So we have talked about offense. We have talked about defense. We have talked about special teams. We have talked about the interesting facts around this game. We have talked about every single angle that you can, predicted those areas. Right now in the chat, let's hear it. Your final score prediction. Lock it in. We will come back to it probably at some point on our preview or our review stream. If I can remember some of them, you guys can remind us what yours were. Give me your final score prediction. Auburn versus Cal. Cal versus Auburn for the first time ever. SEC versus the Pac-12. Who wins? Tyler, I knew you were doing that. I knew you have like 5 YouTube accounts jacking up my counts. I knew you were doing that, sir. There's probably more that I didn't even realize was you that you're doing. All right. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. We'll pull them up in a second. Let me talk through mine a little bit. I said, if I remember correctly, that we're going to have a passing touchdown, that we'll have 3 rushing touchdowns, probably in the 270 range rushing. So that's 28 points there. My gut's telling me we're going to get a defensive touchdown somewhere, whether that's a fumble recovery of some sort. So that's 35. And 2 field goals, but I don't like that brings me up to 41. If we break 40, I think we're going to win. I'm going to say Auburn scores 38 points. And I'm going to say California scores 31. Final score for me, locking it in. Auburn wins in the last minute fashion, probably having to make a defensive stand. 38-31 in a nail biter late in Berkeley. That is my final prediction. 38-31. That's without looking at y'all. So let's see what you guys think here. Ooh, good. A lot of good ones. 69-33. 42-28. 31-23. 34-17. Good times rolling in Berkeley. 49-17. Linda is feeling optimistic. So is John. 35-28. 38-17. 38-24. 42-17. DeQuandrel's feeling pretty confident as well. Giving a lot to Cal. So look, here's the reality. We're all hoping for a blowout here, right? It would send a great statement for where Auburn stands currently as a program. It would kind of show people that you don't need to take Auburn lightly. It would give us a lot of energy coming back home for homecoming, building up towards that gauntlet that's coming up. Auburn really does need this win to set itself up nicely for the rest of the season. What's going to happen? Do not, I warn you, I love the optimism in some of y'all. Do not think that Auburn's going to at least run over Cal early. They might pull away, but I truly think this thing comes down to the wire in the fourth quarter. Defensive stand by Auburn, keeping them from scoring a touchdown to tie it up. Being at Cal means it's a closer game than we like. All right. So from this point on, 5 more minutes roughly, we will take comments and questions. Let me know what you got. Anything else that you want to talk about this game, about the team right now? And then we're going to put this one in the book for a preview and prediction show. We'll come back to those, so post those now. Reminders, please, 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 if you can, there's a great crowd here right now. Stay to the end of the stream. We'll be done shortly. And it will take you on YouTube, at least, directly over to the next live stream that we have. You can go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and hit the notify me bell. Even if you're a subscriber, do that because it'll send you extra notifications. I know some of you are going to go to bed right after, but I promise you, we will be going live. Well, my plan is to go live immediately after that, barring unforeseen circumstances for me, because we will not be on the road. Well, I will saying too much. The plan is to go live right after. I'd love to have all of y'all there and check in with us and talk about what we just witnessed. Because if it's a loss, we got to have a therapy session. If it's a win, we got to talk about it. So it never works for you. Well, that's interesting. Well, I'll look into that and see why that's not happening. It's supposed to do that, but it doesn't. The biggest thing that I can encourage you to do is just go to that next. It's always on our front page. Hit the like button, hit the notify me bell. It does help us if you do that, even if it doesn't take you directly over there. So as a reminder, I meant to pull this up while I was talking about it. Post-game stream, Auburn versus Cal. Don't miss it right after the game. We do plan to do a episode this week, most likely at our standard time. Stand by for that as well, as I've been alluding a lot. Crazy schedule for me this weekend. So things may have to change on the fly, but don't miss the Auburn Experience Sunday, 9 Eastern time. Talk about that game, I'm sure, but plenty of other things within the Auburn Experience. Always check out those links in the description for ways that you can help support us here. Those are on YouTube. If you're on Facebook looking for ways that you can help support us, we've got PayPal. You can buy a t-shirt. You can become a Conquer Club member. All those things are available. If you're interested in helping out, let me know and I can get you that information. But you can help out by just being here, smashing the like button, and helping people find us. Let them know they want to be part of the best little family within the Auburn family. All right. You know, this is the most I've talked recently, but my throat is like really sore. I'm not sick because this is not Tyler. No, well, I mean, it looks like Tyler. Anyway, I keep thinking this is my friend Tyler, and it probably is messing with me. Are you going to do more TikTok lives? Probably, yeah. I don't know how, and I don't know how often, but it's something I experimented with, and definitely there's an audience there, so we'll keep doing that. Just stay subscribed over there, and we'll see what happens. Third quarter will be huge. This is a test for the leadership of the players. Absolutely. And it's why I feel really good about having a player like Elijah McAllister on this team. With just I cannot express to you, I've felt this way since the moment he transferred, how special he is to having a year like this. This guy is one of those rocks that you fall on in hard times, and he's a foundation for this team. So there's other leaders too. Yes, smash the like button. Smash the like button. Do I think Robbie, I guess is what you're asking, will throw for a touchdown? It'd be nice. I'd really like to see it. My gut says no, but we know that he's going to be used a lot. He showed that in the first game and has maintained that he will play Robbie. Tyler. Cal's runner is talking crap, talking about when Cal wins. Cal is not Auburn. Hey, let him talk. Let him talk. Yes, we do need you to join. And Brian, what I will do, since I'll be in studio, I'll probably open up the phone lines to Conquer Club members, which you are a member of, and you are more than welcome to call in if you'd like to, if I remember to. I will try my best to remember that. What else? What else is on your mind about this team, about the game, about this? Tyler. Now you're just messing with me. Robbie will not throw for a touchdown, but he will run for at least 2 touchdowns. I get the feeling that that's going to be such an obvious part of our game that it'll only work maybe once. They're going to really key off of that. Good question, Linda. What color face mask do you think we wear? I am a traditionalist and I love not changing our uniforms, but I will admit I love that white face mask look. The Stormtrooper full out. That's a cold look right there. That's a freeze look if I've ever seen one. So I'm hoping. I need to ask Clint if he's heard anything. But white face mask, all white uniforms on the road out there in Berkeley with the juxtaposition of I don't know what they're wearing exactly, but I will assume it's going to be their base navy or dark blue, whatever it is, with a little bit of gold trim. That'll look really nice on national television. Clint talks a lot about, my friend Clint Richardson, Auburn Uniform Database, about uniform matchups and how good some of them look together. This, in my opinion, is going to be a good one. We don't win with the white, asked Clint. Maybe. Now's the time to break that. Freeze is holding back the playbook. We'll see more of it Saturday night. I hope not too much, though. Not too much, though. So, final thoughts, comments, questions, derogatory rebuttals, get them in right now. There's one last thought, one last question, one last prediction that you wanted to get in. Don't hesitate. Get it in. We're about to get out of here. Live stream immediately after the game. Don't miss it. It will be late, but we're going to have a good time here on YouTube. Probably will broadcast that to Facebook too. Would love to see you there. Also, stay tuned on the channel. Probably have some more content coming up for you this week. There's a new basketball schedule out, so I'm thinking about doing something for that. But as always, stay connected on social media everywhere. You can get E2C Network stuff, including our podcast. We are very excited about this week and all the content we've got coming out for y'all over the upcoming weeks. Feels good going into this week with what I've seen. The O-line upgrade is huge. Free Jarquez. Well, here's what I'll say about the free Jarquez thing. We don't know the extent about what is true and what's not. We don't know what punishment was agreed upon, if that was necessary. Clearly something was necessary. Here's what I'll say about Jarquez. Whatever they agreed upon, I want him to serve the full, requirements of that, and then I want him freed. But I would just be very careful with the whole free Jarquez movement. I know some of the players are doing it too. That kind of treads a little bit into some territory that can get a little bit dicey. I want Jarquez out there more than anybody, but I also want him to have paid dues where dues need to be paid. Do I know that that's been done? No. Do I know that those already haven't been filled? No. I know nothing about the situation. What I want is for everything that needs to be set right, and to get him back out on the field. That's my hot take on it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here, hanging out with us, spending some time, being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. Great stream, great crowd. We do this every Thursday, so don't miss it. Next week, Sanford. I think we might have a Sanford guest. I think those are a lot easier to get than Cal and UMass. So stay tuned for next week, this Sunday, next Wednesday. Content galore here for you on E2C Network. We appreciate you all being here. Till I talk to you again, War Eagle and beat Cal.